Okay, hold on. I can't show you the best part until later on in the video. Well, it's a cold morning today. Get the defroster going. It's day 2 of a job that's turning into a bit of a problem because of weather. We've got big redwood we're removing. I'll show you the footage here in a bit. We had a big storm supposedly coming in tonight, and they're saying 8 to 12 inches of rain up here in the Santa Cruz Mountains, which is unheard of. I've never seen that much rain. It's getting cold, and I say it's 30 degrees right now, so if it stays cold, I'm guessing we're gonna have some snow up here. I expected to do about 3 days on this one particular job, and we had one rough day yesterday. The wind picked up, and it got to a point where Jorge was starting to make some mistakes because he was a little bit nervous of the wind, a lot nervous of the wind. So I said, let's call it a day. You know, sometimes you got to wrap it up. Sometimes you got to say, you know, this is stupid. All right. You can't just keep going and going if the crew is not feeling right. All right, I'm backing up a day before this last bit here. Here's pretty much where we started the job. There you go. That's why the tree had to come out. There was good just cause for it, and I was amazed at how young this tree was and how fast it grew. Its roots were clearly into the sewer line, and maybe that's why it got so big. This is one of the tallest urban redwoods I think I've ever gotten into. We did get out there quite a few weeks before that. We were able to get off like the first 20 or so of the largest low limbs. And so here's how we got the job started. From a distance, it doesn't look so bad. But amazingly, you get up there, it just goes and goes and goes. A lot of the footage I'm showing you is from the GoPro, so it's sort of a wide-angle lens, and it kind of condenses everything and makes it look smaller than it actually is. All right, first I wanted to talk a little bit about roping. We used a number of different techniques. And you can see here, I've got my rope around my butt. And he's got the rope through a ring at the top of the tree, so there's virtually no friction. The branches were reasonably heavy. I felt very confident that I could manage them. But I didn't want to manage them just by holding onto the rope with my hands. Bear in mind, you always wear gloves when you're roping, because if it goes too fast with your hands, you're going to get that burn that every climber, every groundsman ends up understanding and appreciates that cold beer at the end of the day to make the hands feel better. But if you put it under your butt and do a belay, you know, not high on your waist, but under your butt, then you're using your body weight as well to slow it down. It's sort of an old world rock climbing belay technique, but it works very good for rapid deployment of branches. Sometimes you want them to come down real fast. So in this case, we're actually using straps on every branch. It kind of speeds up things a little bit. And we knew that we were going to get into the speed lining later on. But some of these really long branches, we didn't want to speed line them because they would have swung around too much. And many of them had big, wide, spreading portions. They weren't just long individual limbs. So it went pretty good. Unfortunately, 2 of my guys are still out with COVID. They keep testing positive, so I said no. Made it kind of tough for us. That was kind of cool. I got the drone out, and we were kind of waiting there. You get a little bit of better bird's eye view of what it's like for the man in the tree. And I used the drone. It's got a really accurate way of measuring. And I first off, I wanted to go way up high, which is always fun with a drone, and get a better idea of, you know, what the area looks like. But when I went down on the tree, down to the very tip top of it, I was able to get an accurate measurement of the tree. And basically what you do is you take the drone and you bring it to the height of the stump at the ground level, and then you make a mark on your drone indicator, the height indicator, then when you fly it all the way up. So it showed it was a little bit above zero to start with. So the end of the day, I measured 133 feet, which is really, really tall for an urban redwood. It's not tall for a mountain redwood, but they grow entirely different up in the mountains. So here we are, day 2, and you can see the sun came out, but we had the threat of the storm coming. So this is the calm before the storm, and we decided to switch to the speed line. Some people call it a zip line. I call it a speed line. It's a technique that I actually started using about 35 years ago. It's real simple. You just put a strap around every branch and hook a carabiner on it. I would have liked to have been further back, but it was a very busy street. And some people would say hook it up to like a quarter wrap or something like that. But you want to be able to drop the branch at the right time, because if you aren't able to quickly manage it. So the beauty of the speed line is multiple reasons. One, you get it going in the right direction. At the last minute, you let go, and the butts ended up pointing towards the truck with the chipper. But it gets stuff out of the tree quickly. And if you're efficient at it, and you've got somebody helping you to manage the brush as you go, it's a very, very fast, effective way to get branches down.
Don't do it
but you have to know your limitations, because you're just holding onto the branch here. Remember, for the most part, the branch is just falling, and all you're really doing is directing it, getting it coming towards you. But as it gets lower and lower and you're pulling on it, it does build up some weight. So it is moderately strenuous to do this. But it's a good technique. If you've never done it before, you should really practice with it and try it, because it can greatly speed up a job. One negative about it is I was right on a very busy street, so I had my feet right at the curb, which gave me a little bit more control. But it built up a lot of brush fast, and each of these branches, they're probably 150 to 200 pounds. The long ones. I could drag them okay over to the chipper, but with all the brush on them, I couldn't pick up a single limb all by myself. I could pick up one end of it as long as the brush was on the ground. And once again, you always want to use gloves when you're doing anything like this. A little bit more speed lining. A lot of times you'll have a speed line that's quite a bit further away from the tree. And when you use a speed line close to the tree, you have to remember you've got more of a dramatic drop straight down. Kind of interesting. You can see how the sky is changing a little bit later on the same day. Let's see the sky kind of clouded up on us because we have this pending storm looming. I got back as far as I could. So we got going on here. Still doing more speed lining down. All right, the change in the sky. He got down and had his lunch, and he decided to get up there and do a little bit more. So just the top cut. I had my GoPro. Yeah, this is the top cut. I put a wrap around my hand, which is never really recommended. I didn't get a good shot of that. I'm sorry. I had the GoPro on my chest, and I was really concentrating on the pull. I wanted to talk a bit about some of the branches in the tree. At one time, somebody had topped or tipped cut many of the branches. It caused them to be excessively heavy, so we found breaks and tears all throughout the tree. This is a bit of ground worker advice here. Always pay attention to the climber's rope. It's constantly being moved around. It's constantly being adjusted. And if it gets tangled up, it can be a mess. So it's not the climber's responsibility to manage the rope. It's yours. Here's a cool idea one of my guys came up with. When I was holding the sign up for this, they put this mirror up here so they can see the traffic coming from behind them, one on both sides. If they've got to stop, they can see if there's somebody coming up behind them on a bicycle. I think that's a hell of an idea.
Look at that.
Okay, time for the wood. I know this is going to be a bit of a bone of contention for a lot of guys out there because a lot of people say, why are you leaving all those stubs? And I can't say I agree with it, but I understand why. And a lot of times if I'm climbing, I'll leave a bunch of stubs. This is a little excessive. I asked Jorge about it. He says he really likes having something to grab hold of to throw those things down. I get it. Biggest reason for it is you've got something to stand on besides just your spurs. So there's pros and cons to it. On the negative side, if you leave stubs and you're roping stuff down, you've got stuff that's going to hang up the branches. And it happened a few times. It was a little irritating. But, you've got to leave it up to the climber to make his own decisions. We were on a bit of a hillside here, and there was a ramp there. Oh, let's get back to the branches. Everywhere I looked in the tree, there was interesting anomalies. There was some termites in the tree. We found a small colony about halfway up, and a lot of broken limbs. So here we are at the end of day number 2. We had to leave everything cleaned up. We did cut up all the rounds. What I decided to do, which was a little bit uncomfortable, was the tree was 30 feet long, but it was 20 feet to the edge of the sidewalk. And there was a sewer line running straight through the tree, which was the main reason they were cutting the tree down in the first place. So I opted to put a bunch of rounds up along the edge, but not right next to the sidewalk, because I thought it might push the rounds. I didn't want the rounds from the impact to push into the sidewalk and cause the sidewalk to crack or lift up. So it's a pretty good sized trunk. It's well over 4 feet, close to 5 feet in diameter at the base, and it's 30 feet tall. So I decided to bring it down. My son Kalen came out and we looked at it, and first thing he said to me is, "Why aren't you going to do a Humboldt notch?" I said, it's hard to make that lower cut with a small saw. If I had a longer bar and a helper handle and somebody on the other side, you can pull it up from the bottom. There are pros and cons to both types of cuts. The biggest reason for a Humboldt cut is it doesn't drop so far, and it kind of keeps the trunk of the tree closer to the base of the stump. So here I am. I put my camera in my top pocket, decided to pull it out at the last minute to get this drop. And there you go. It did scoot over quite a bit, but a lot of that had to do with the fact that it slid on the pieces of wood. Here's the footage the homeowner shot. He airdropped it to me and I was able to add it. Not too bad. Wish people would hold their cameras horizontal instead of vertical all the time. But it was a big piece of wood. I was a little worried about cracking the log. It's happened to me before, but I got away with it. And this is the footage that Kalen shot, which is what you saw at the very beginning. Seeing it in slow motion is interesting to see how much impact there was on those stumps. So it was a bit of a gamble. I really felt comfortable about it, but I didn't want to hit that sewer line that was underneath. It was probably deep enough, but with that much weight pounding on something, you never know what's going to happen. So, all the firewood of this tree, I was either going to haul it away or give it away. And each round weighed 300 to 400 pounds. So the only way I could get rid of this stuff was to split it. So I split about 1.5 cords by myself. Jorge came along and split about 3/4 of a cord. We did it all by hand with a maul, a couple of mauls. And there's the size of the stump. That's kind of a fun shot there at the end of the day. Really clean wood at the base. I was really impressed. So there we are, all the split firewood. Amazingly, it all went. Every bit of the firewood went. My son came out with his friend's wood miser and took the first 8 feet, and he wanted to square it up because he had a buyer for a piece of wood. So they had to very cleverly figure out a way to get it into this homeowner's backyard. I made a mistake. I should have done something like that myself, but he found the buyer, so kudos to him. He also decided to slab it up. I was going to cut it all into lumber, but he's got a friend with a dedicated slabbing mill for a Lucas mill. And I thought, this is too pretty not to make slabs out of it. So I gave it to my son and his friend Kenny to do. I'm going to get one slab out of the whole deal, which will be fine for me. At the end of the day, it's about, optimizing the best value that you can for a log like this. Had I turned it into lumber, I probably would have gotten close to 600, maybe 700 board feet. So because one end of the trunk is really fat and the other end is not as fat, the value that you get out of lumber, you have to square off, you have to box off the smallest end, and the rest of it becomes waste. So if we use 600 board feet as a number and say $2 a linear foot, and it was 20 feet long, I likely would have gotten about $1,500 maybe of lumber value out of it. Whereas these slabs, each of these slabs has a value of anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 each. And these guys have got buyers for these slabs. A 20-foot slab, 3 inches thick, is quite valuable. So if we get 6 or 7 slabs out of this log, the potential value could be in excess of $10,000. So I did the math. It made a lot more sense to me to help my son out and his buddy. So while I lost money on the value of the lumber, my son gained on it, and keep it in the family, that's fine, I'm happy. It was fun watching him do this dedicated milling here. The guy on the right there, Kenny, he's got a lot of experience doing milling. It's his business. You saw the name of his company in the front there, and he sells a lot of slabs, and he's got a lot of little tricks there. Interesting how they're using these big metal poles to roll everything into position, because at first I was looking at it thinking, how are you going to get all these things up there? Because each of the slabs weighed, I'm going to guess 600 plus pounds, maybe even closer to 800 pounds each.
So how the hell are you, old man? I haven't seen you in a long time.
Well, I turned to 90.
How old are you now?
90.
90? Wow. Looks pretty good for 90.
There goes slab number 1 on the back of the truck. We couldn't two of us could not push the slabs up by hand. So we had to pretty much ram them back into the butt of the log to get them up to go all the way to the front. Plus there was a lot of friction, of course. There it is. Beautiful stuff. There were no defects in this trunk. It was absolutely incredible. Way up high, there was that termite colony, and it had me a little bit worried. And quite often on a big urban redwood, I'll find decay pockets, and sometimes they'll even be hollow. But this tree was well worth milling. Like I said before, amazingly, it was not that old of a tree. So it does have pretty wide growth rings, but it doesn't diminish the value of it that much in a slab. Granted, old growth urban wood is worth considerably more than faster growing wood. I thoroughly enjoyed watching these two guys get all these things on there. I offered to help, and they said, no, we got it, it's fine. Just took them a few minutes to get each piece on there. I did comment to them that the chain on their mill was kind of dull, and that was part of the reason that it took so long. But even so, it took only about 15 minutes per cut. The sawdust was really fine. It should have been more like shavings coming off. But it was a very smooth cut. Everything came out really, really nice. All in all, it was a fun job. I didn't make near as much as I had hoped I would. I'm hoping that Kalen and his buddy make out well with these slabs. And at the very least, I'll get a slab out of the deal. I'm thinking huge picnic table for my deck. One of these days, we will have people back over again. COVID will be over. Life will be back to where it was before. It has to. Hey, thanks for watching.